everyone. I am Kay Denault with Mental Health Association of South Mississippi. We're here in Gulfport, and Christine Coker is joining us. Christine has volunteered with Mental Health Association for a long time now, and we truly appreciate her and all of her experience and expertise. And so really invited her to join us so that we can learn some more about what she does and some things that we can be doing right now, especially as we're still, so much in shelter in place and all those kinds of things. So thank you so much for being here, Christine.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit, first of all, about what you do, your job at the college and all that stuff.
Okay. So my official title is Associate Research and Extension Professor of Urban Horticulture, and I work for Mississippi State University at the Coastal Research and Extension Center. And I've been with State for a little bit over 19 years now. And my office is in Biloxi on Pops Ferry. But a big part of my job is running a research station for the university, which is in Perry County, about an hour and a half north of Biloxi.
Wow. Okay. That sounds really cool. So what happens at this research facility? Is it top secret or can you tell us?
No, totally not top secret. It's the Beaumont Horticultural Unit, and we are a 20-acre vegetable farm. So the kind of work we do is we look at different varieties of vegetables. So for instance, we might grow 20 kinds of tomatoes at one time, or 20 kinds of bell peppers. So we look at new varieties that are coming out so we can make recommendations to home gardeners as well as farmers. We also do a lot of work with different cultural practices to make farmers more efficient and make them more money and better stewards of the environment.
Very nice. So does that information get disseminated out to our farmers here in Mississippi, or is it even more broad than that?
Even more broad. So it starts here in Mississippi, but then I also do presentations at national and even international meetings.
Wow, that is exciting. When you think about you go to the grocery store and you pick up your fruits and vegetables, you just don't realize what all went into making that piece of food grow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so much in Mississippi that we can grow ourselves. We have an almost unlimited growing season. So where my mom lives in Tennessee, they're going to get to 37 again this weekend. Our cold snap is going to be 57. So we're already out of the woods. So we're already growing tomatoes and peppers and already harvesting things here, and they're just getting started. So we're really lucky to have that kind of growing season.
Nice. Well, if someone's thinking about having a garden at home, you mentioned tomatoes and peppers. Is there certain kinds that are easier to grow than others? What would you suggest?
Really, if you're starting to garden for the first time, my biggest recommendation is to choose what you like to eat. So don't grow peppers just because somebody said, oh, peppers are easy to grow. If you don't eat peppers, don't grow them. If your kids won't eat squash, then maybe you don't want to grow squash right out the bat. So yeah, so start with what you like to grow, what you like to eat, and grow that. And really, anything that we can grow in the ground here, we can also grow in containers. And so even if you only have a limited amount of space, you can still have a garden.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about like just these little, like I've seen those rectangular type containers and things like that.
So you can use anything from like a self-watering rectangular planter like that, like an earth box, to a 5-gallon bucket with holes drilled in the bottom. You can be as fancy or as basic as you want to be.
Yeah, it might have something out in your garage or shed or something that you could use.
Absolutely.
Cool.
If it'll hold soil and it'll drain water, you can plant in it.
Nice. Very good. So I think you had, I guess, just continuing on some discussion about home gardening. Tell us about some of the tips that people may not realize. Like, I think you were telling me before about how when you need to transfer something to a larger pot and those roots are all kind of tangled up in there. What kind of things do people need to know about that stuff?
So let's start like when you very first bring your plants home and you've bought them in those little 6-packs. So let's say they're completely white. And so they're just root bound, like they're about to bust out of their little shells. So you can actually just tease those roots apart and it's not going to hurt them. Just tease them a little bit apart, give them a little spread, and then plant them, and that'll get them a better start. With vegetables, it's better to go ahead and start in the big container that you're going to end up in. So even though it may seem like it's a really huge container for that little tiny plant, it's going to fill that pot up. House plants are generally a little different because they will start in a smaller container and you do have to bump those up sometimes. But most of the time with like hanging pots and things you buy at the garden center, they're in their final container. So it's not very often that you have to change containers.
Okay. Well, and when you touched on some veggies, what about just, little house plants that you can have around? What's easy there?
So I have a tendency to love my house plants to death. So I want to water them. And inside plants just don't need as much water as our outside plants because they're not as hot, they're not hitting all that daylight. So just make sure to actually check the soil moisture before you give them water. Pothos are really easy. It's a vining plant, so it's sort of trailing, and they're really common. So they're a really easy plant. I also like African violets. A lot of people do African violets, and if you like a little bit of color, they're a really good choice for that.
Oh yeah, those are pretty. Now, what was the first one? Say the first plant name again.
Pothos.
Pothos. Okay.
Yeah, Pothos.
Thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. This is good information because, some of us don't really have a green thumb. So any tips that we can have is really good.
So in my house, I don't really have a sunny window. All of my windows go down almost all the way to the floor. So I don't really have a good place to sit plants in the window. So the only place in my house I have plants is in my bathroom window. And that's where I keep orchids. So orchids don't like really bright light. They like diffuse light and they like humidity. So I have one of those glass block windows that's not clear. And so my orchids sit on the windowsill there. They like the humidity from the shower and the bath. And they like that diffuse light. And that's the only place I've ever been able to get my orchids to rebloom.
Nice. And then when in the morning after you get your shower, you just look over at that beautiful plant.
It's super nice.
Yeah, like you're in a spa, huh?
Yeah. Light a couple of candles.
That is so cool. So Christine, I know you have a lot of other hobbies other than growing things. What other things? Because I know, you hear construction people don't like to build stuff for themselves or whatever. So what do you like to do?
So I'm a scrapbooker and card maker. So I like to play with paper and scissors and glue and tape and stickers. So I've been doing that for several years. And it brings me a lot of satisfaction, especially when I make cards, because I can actually send those out and share them with people. And so I get the joy of making the card, but I also get the added joy of sending it out and bringing joy to somebody else. And I really feel like, especially in this time of disconnect, that has been a really good way for me to feel connected to my friends and family.
Oh, that's so sweet. I like that idea. There was a question about seniors that's come up a couple of times in our office, and what can people do for some of folks who are elderly? Maybe they live by themselves or they're in a nursing home or whatever. And I guess you really wouldn't even have to have fancy paper or anything like that. If you just wrote a little note to someone and popped it in the mail, especially thinking about our seniors, they grew up with the, regular mail system. And so I would think that they would really enjoy getting something like that.
Yeah, and I've done that a couple of times, and I they like to respond back, which is cool.
Oh,
Um, and so besides dropping a note or sending a card to a senior, another good idea is if you are crafty, if you're a card maker, for instance. I have friends that will actually make cards, not sign them, and send a bundle of cards to a nursing home. So those folks will have cards that they can send out to their friends and family.
oh, good idea.
Because it's
Oh,
not like they can run to Hallmark and buy cards.
true. Yeah, and you know what? I think people just care about that you thought about them. It doesn't matter if it's like super fancy. Because I
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you, I bought a card recently at the store, and it was like almost $5. I was like, what the heck? It's probably gonna get thrown away. So
I'm
I'm
really
like,
thinking it's time to get back to just stationery.
yes. When I was a kid, my grandma lived in Louisiana, and of course, then we didn't have internet and all that stuff. And we would write back and forth. I could not wait to get that letter in the mail from her. So,
Yeah.
little kids, I think, enjoy that stuff too. I saw where, actually one of our former coworkers, her grandson is now really curious about mail, and on Facebook, she was asking if, any other kids would be interested in being a pen pal or something like that. So I think, right now where we're kind of, a lot of people are at home, that might be some things that they could think about doing, especially if they've got kids that are getting
Yeah, my
in.
niece and nephews have pen pals now. So that's really exciting. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, do you know if it's people that live here or even somewhere else?
No, it's people that live away. So they all live in Tennessee and their pen pals are in Mississippi and Michigan and all over the place.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Oh, definitely need to do that. And then also, thinking about people who are in the hospital with mental health issues. Sometimes people don't have family ties, and so we've sent some cards that way to some of the mental health hospitals. So that could be something else someone thinks about, just a little note thinking about you, get well soon kind of thing.
Sometimes even receiving a note from somebody you don't know can brighten your day even more than from somebody you do know because it's so unexpected and it's so pure and out of nowhere just to get a happy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it really does make a difference. So if you're thinking about, well, I don't really know anybody, I don't know if that would be appropriate, just do it because a nice card or a happy note never hurt anyone's feelings.
Absolutely. I'm glad we're having this conversation because we have been asked a little bit about what kind of volunteer opportunities that we have. And, right now that's very limited. So anybody that's listening, if they would do some of this card writing and write a little note and send to somebody in a nursing home or a hospital, I think that would just be amazing and definitely a form of volunteering.
Yeah, yeah. And it's an easy thing to do.
Very good. So what else would you like people to know about Mississippi Extension Center?
So right now, because everything is transitioning to online, we have more learning opportunities now than ever before. Our local extension agents are doing regular Zoom trainings on different gardening topics. If you go to extension.msstate.edu, you can find all of our publications, videos. There's so much information out there. And just because our physical offices are not open to visitors right now, we're still working and still serving our clientele. So reach out to us and we'll be happy to help.
That is fantastic. So say that website one more time.
Extension.msstate.edu.
Fantastic. Very good. You have given us so much good information today. Anything else you can think of that you wanted to talk about as far as, growing things or whatever?
Well, I'd just like to say that even if you're not a gardener, just get outside. Getting some sunshine, getting your hands dirty, it's proven to be therapeutic both physically and mentally. So if you're having a bad day, just take a few minutes, walk around your yard, walk around the block, get some sun and some nature time. It'll do you good.